Songwriter's Corner number 2. Hey, good afternoon. This video is going to be about how to work through getting stuck in a rut and the things and techniques I go through to get through this difficulty. First off, you could start with different tunings, such as D standard, drop D, and have a capo where you can make adjustments with the capo on different frets to give you a different kind of tonality with the songs you're trying to write. And also about open G tuning, which is the Keith Richards Rolling Stones type of tuning that you can also try to employ and try to write songs in those or in that type of arrangement. For me, I learned the songs Wild Horses and Can't Always Get What You Want in the open G tuning, and then that enabled me to learn some of my own, or to write some of my own. Here's a bit about recording your progress and why. Like, say you come up with a great riff or section, and when you record it, it ensures that it won't be forgotten. Because how many times have you written a part, thought it was great, but then something came up, and then you lost track of what that section or riff was. As long as you've made a recording of it, like say on your phone or an old-fashioned tape recorder, then you'll have that section always available to be referenced to. When you're listening back, it tells you if the riffs you're writing are making songwriting sense. What you want to eventually do is perform the entire song after you've pieced together parts of it, and after the entire song is composed, record that, and then use any self-editing or song editing that you see fit to do as you've recorded that. Because sometimes you'll notice, like, oh, there's a real gap here in I need a solo section or something. I need something, or you've written too many parts, and going through the editing process by listening back, you get to have sort of like a bird's eye view over the song in its entirety, and then you can also re-record new edits as you go along and get better at that. It comes with more time, experience, and just doing that over and over again. The study of tempo. Now, most songs out there follow pretty much one sort of solid tempo throughout the entire piece of music, but there are other examples out there where bands and artists actually will mix up their tempos. Some good examples of this that have speeding up or slowing down sections, or crescendos or start-stops, can be found in a lot of metal music, and especially bands like Black Sabbath, where they tend to increase their tempo at the end of the songs. Some certain examples of their work in changing tempos can be found in the song Black Sabbath and Snowblind, where Snowblind is a masterful piece of songwriting where they actually slow down a section, resume normal speed, and then they actually pick up at the end of the song, though it features like 4 different tempos. It's a very well constructed piece of music. There's other songs where the starting and stopping technique actually, or just hits, do-do sort of things, helps inform the other different sounding sections. A great band that does this is Slayer, Megadeth, Metallica. They do a lot of start-stops and go into different feeling type sections. You can hear this evidently, or as you can hear that happen in Slayer's Seasons in the Abyss, Angel of Death, Peace Sells by Megadeth, and so on and so forth. Also, as you're writing and piecing together your songs, you get better at identifying over time just what kind of section you're actually writing, and your ears will become more attuned to the sections that you're composing. For instance, you might write the first section of your song and it actually turns out to be more like the chorus, or it could actually be more like an intro, and you'll start to know that by just identifying, is it the catchiest part of the piece that you've written, or the catchiest part of the music? Is there sort of like a rallying cry around this, or are you writing a lot of lyrics and it kind of self-evident? It's kind of self-evident that it's actually the verse, because verse sections have more words usually than choruses. Choruses tend to be basic bits like rallying cries. You think of Def Leppard or 80s bands like that, Cinderella, when they have very identifiable choruses because they've centered it around a sort of a rallying cry. Def Leppard is actually really excellent at as a listener, knowing what the chorus is, and it's undeniable that they have certain choruses, just the way they piece together their music. When you use the video recording component and feature on your phone, it's one of the great ways to track your progress, or video recording your song in its. Oh right, what was I saying? You can track your progress piece by piece, and when you do that, when you video recorded your song in its pieces, you can, or in its entirety, you can go back and use your judgment, and you have a recorded document that you can cross-reference and refer to, should you then soon be in the position to go to a recording studio. And because the most basic thing you have to have for your recording studio is knowing how the blasted song goes. Knowing how to cover other artists' music and sticking primarily to just the rhythm sections is probably the best and greatest way to go about learning your covers. The solo sections, guitar leads and such, are nice little add-ons to learn, but your primary function and role that would be if your primary function and role is as a lead guitarist in a band. It really depends on your role. If you are the main songwriter, knowing rhythm sections really helps inform the entire song anyway, because then if a solo section does come up and you don't know it note by note, you still may have the ability to kind of wing it or ad-lib a solo, because you know how the song's written, you know the keys, and you know which keys you can solo over as you're going about the song in like a practice or live setting. You can be spontaneous, and that's always kind of refreshing to hear a different type of solo over one that's maybe too well known or something, to break it up or then go back into recognizable parts of the solo. Because you also have to think that your time is always at a premium, and if you know your 10 to 20 cover songs, all rhythm parts, that's much more effective than learning note for note solos, which really take a lot of time to really know note for note. It's if you have the ability and the skill to do that, that's cool. Then you definitely are running in the position of lead guitarist. But primarily we're talking about rhythm guitar, and because knowing rhythm guitar is the song, it's 90% of it, or practically 100% of it. The other parts are kind of like add-ons. It kind of makes me think of like old school role-playing games where you gain experience points, and you access new levels when you go about trying to learn rhythm sections. Because at the end of the day, also if you're an originals band, 10 to 15% of your band's total material will probably be ending up as covers, and not the other way around. You really do want to be proud of your of your original material more so than your covers. Covers are just end up being optional as a live thing, and maybe just helps to kind of add a bit of beginning cohesiveness to your rehearsals with your band, because then you have something you all know. But it really shouldn't be the majority or primary thing you're learning or as a band. You really want to be an originals band, and covers are more like an afterthought. Or you could play like a cover song in the middle of your live set and maybe as an encore. That's really about it. Like, especially if you have like a 7 to 10 song live set that you've constructed with your group. There's pros and cons to being a solo songwriter versus being a songwriter with co-writers. The pros of solo songwriting include a more focused and consistent band sound and direction, far less arguing over how the songs are supposed to go, because you yourself are the song editor and can do it yourself, and most times you have a better overall soundscape and vision by virtue of the song sounding consistent with a recognizable style throughout. Like the style, tone, and delivery is all from the ears, eyes, mind, and soul of the primary writer. Great examples of this, where this works best, is in the music of Billy Corgan's Smashing Pumpkins and in Kurt Cobain's Nirvana, where there was one identifiable and singular writer, and that's why they sound like they do. There's just great focus in those groups. The cons, however, of not having co-writers, those include the two heads are better than one concept, where actually two writers instead of one can actually make the whole just that much better. A very prime example of that, it can be found in Lennon and McCartney, how so many of their songs were co-composed with each other, and everybody knows how great the Beatles were. It's because they fed off each other and had similar life experiences, and their songwriting level was matched and could be made better feeding off of each other. Like, I think Paul McCartney informed a lot of John Lennon's like yelling technique, because I think it was Paul that was really kind of yelling and being forceful about it in a Little Richard style well before John Lennon actually expressed his sort of rage-like style. I think they learned so much off of each other, and that was a really great co-writing team. I think there's also a more diverse and eclectic song mix when you have multiple writers. A great example of this is in Soundgarden's work, where each individual member tended to write complete songs, and they pooled together all their different sounds and different songs and different techniques and approaches, and Soundgarden themselves were more unified and more interesting than the others doing the same type of music. I see Soundgarden as looming larger than others in their genre, like in terms of diversity, song difference, even more so than Nirvana and Soundgarden, or I mean Smashing Pumpkins for sure. Another con includes more feeling like and vibe throughout the band organization. Another con in this includes how the band is organized and run democratically or not, and that the band membership that the songs go through the entire band membership and are agreed upon in a democratic fashion. Real good examples of this are in the bands Fleetwood Mac and the Eagles, where the sum of their members equal great or greater music than their contemporaries, as they were all involved in the songwriting process. Well, that's all I really want to talk about today on this topic. I really hope you enjoyed and appreciate this sort of discussion or talk or tutorial on songwriting. So I hope all is well in your songwriting endeavors and all that. And sayonara, arrivederci, Tyle Graceblood signing out. See ya.